Hi, my friend, fellow worship leader. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 amazing resources that I wish I had when I started leading worship. You know, there's a story that I'll never forget. One of my volunteers, he looked at me and he was like, man, I need you to lead me. I need you to tell me what to play. I need you to help me out here. And the truth was at the time, I honestly didn't know how to equip my teams well. And honestly, I wish I had resources like this at my disposal. So today I'm going to share with you and go behind the scenes looking at worshiponline.com, worshipartistry.com, and then the worshipinitiative.com. Now, I do want to point out these are paid subscription resources. And actually right now I'm going to show you how they break down and compare in price. So this is worshiponline.com. You could see here the monthly pricing structure. There's solo accounts where maybe just you as the worship leader would want to invest in this, or maybe somebody on your team, you might want to point them to this. You can see it's $18 a month for a solo member. Now, all of these, they are going to have annual discounts. If you sign up for annual billing, you're obviously going to get a little bit of a price break. And let's compare to the Worship Initiative. Very similar, individual user, $19 a month. You can see if you switch over to annual, that switches down to $13 a month. So you are going to save some money with that. You can see right here, save 30%. And then the Worship Artistry, a little bit cheaper for them. So the individual, even on the monthly, is $12.99 per month, whereas the other ones, the annual billing, that was the price roughly for the annual billing. So monthly, it's $12.99 for an individual account, and then you could see there's team accounts. And the team pricing just varies. If I go back here, you can see the team pricing varies by the number of team members you want to be able to add to your account. But you can check those out. I'll put the links to these in the description below as well. Now with this, I just want to share right off the top of this that all 3 of these resources are amazing. Like I said, when I started leading worship, man, if I had any one of these resources, it would have served me well, it would have served my teams well. So I want to say that right up front is all 3 of these are amazing. You almost can't go wrong with any of them. However, in this video, I am going to point out maybe the pros and cons for your specific context and just share my honest opinions with what might rise to the top for your specific needs. So let's dive right in. Right away, if you do need a phone app, if you need a dedicated phone app, I want to point out right away, I'm actually going to put my phone on the screen here, that 2 of them, Worship Online and Worship Artistry, have dedicated phone apps, as you can see here. So you've got Worship Online and Worship Artistry. Now, the Worship Initiative does have an app available, but it's actually like a daily Devo app. But to be fair to them, and I'll show you this in a second here, their website does function much like an app. So I don't feel like I'm losing a lot in terms of functionality of not having a dedicated app. But let me just give you a quick preview here. And so this is Worship Artistry. A great functionality of the app, as you can see on your screen here. They have this green room, which is kind of like their blog. And you can see they've got a huge catalog of songs. They've got songs that they've just added. They're always adding songs, as are all these resources. You can see you've got top 100 songs, songs that are popular with the church. And then just show you a little bit of the functionality of what the lessons look like. So let's type in here a song. I'm going to use Holy Forever throughout this video. Wish I could spell here, but Holy Forever. Thankful for spell check. There we go. And so let's see what comes up. Okay, we got the Chris Tomlin version. Let's click on that. I'll just show you a little bit of how this works here. So if I go, okay, this is a bass tutorial that I clicked on.
Song Holy Forever.
It's going to start out, and it's going to be playing that there.
Such a driving, cool.
And you can see, the videos are really well done. Great functionality. If we go back into this, let's go to guitar here, and let's go chords. Okay, it's going to show you the chords, and then if you do this little menu here, you'll be able to see right at the top here, you've got, lots of functionality for being able to add to set lists, favorite songs, and you could view all the different resources that you need.
Now I'm going to go over all the choruses in this section because we have.
You can see the videos will start to play. If I click on this little
major riff, and
the little kind of like document icon up the top there, it'll bring up the chords. So right, you've actually got tabs available for you. So I'm not going to get into a lot of the functionality right now because I'm going to show you on the desktop the comparison of how the tutorials look. But let me show you Worship Online. Very similar functionality with the app. Great user interface. Again, their catalog of songs. You can see the same thing, a lot of the same functionality, set lists and favorites. If I go into, okay, here's Holy Forever right here. This is the Bethel music version, but let me just show you this. Again, very similar. You can click on a lesson. It'll start playing. You can see great video quality, obviously. Right, this will be a playthrough, and I'll show you this functionality on the desktop versions as well. There's playthroughs and as well as lessons as well that break down the parts. And then again, similar, you got chords, you've got lyrics, you've even got tabs available to you as well. So if I go acoustic, I'll show you what this looks like here. Give it a second to load. And yeah, amazing. You got this video, and then you've got tabs, right? It gives you the chords. If your people on your team are using mainly tablature, which a lot of guitar players are, especially in modern worship contexts. And so you can see it just gives you that here, which is amazing. Again, the guitar players are going to appreciate that. And Worship Artistry does have that as well. Now, again, the Worship Initiative doesn't have a dedicated app, but I do want to show you this here. This is what their website layout looks like, even on a mobile device. And you can see it functions very much like an app. So if I go, let's go to Song Library. Show you this functionality here. You can search. There's Holy Forever right there in their database. Let's just pull that up. Show you how this looks. I mean, again, great interface on how it's laid out. That video, if we left that, would start playing. You got all your instrument videos here, electric guitar, piano, bass, right? All the stuff you would need to equip your worship team. If you go down here, they've got a rehearsal player. You can kind of hear, that instrument being played. I mean, you got your layout of your chord charts here. So just amazing resource, the way it's laid out. Like I said, I don't feel like I'm losing functionality for not having a dedicated app. Now, I do want to just point out as well that a lot of these, as you can see there, you'll see more of this as we go into the desktop previews here of what they look like. A lot of these resources are designed to be like one-stop shop. Like, man, you could use this as a whole equipping resource for your team. And I'll show you this more in a moment as we go behind the desktop version. Just before we continue going on in the video, I do want to get a free resource into your hands. Maybe you're discouraged by like, man, okay, these are paid resources. I do have a free resource for you. I've put together a guide. I'm going to show you what this looks like. It's called Lead Worship with Greater Confidence, and it's 6 practices that you can implement this week to gain a greater sense of confidence in your calling as a worship leader. I put together this guide just thinking back on my journey, just going like, man, what are the things that have helped me? And if you're a worship leader that's just getting started, or even if you're a seasoned worship leader, I believe these are things that are good to revisit from time to time. And so there's 6 practices. You can see here, I'm going to take you a glance through them. I tell a story about when I started leading worship and all the nerves and things like that would get at me. And we talk about what does it look like to have a godly confidence. And then I talk about these 6 practices. The first one being just pivot the pressure, right? Not putting too much pressure on ourselves as worship leaders, and actually, man, just understanding what our role is and the role of Jesus being the mediator of a new covenant. So we talk about that. We talk about prioritizing your devotions, which, man, can seem like an obvious thing, but so often we just put that to the side as worship leaders. We go through here and we talk about practicing with purpose. So how do we actually practice and prepare with purpose individually so that we can lead our teams well? And then we actually get to how do we prepare our teams well, equipping them with helpful chord charts and things, a lot of what we're talking about today. Then we get down to practice 5, posturing our heart as we go to serve, kind of shifting from this rehearsal, like how do we have all the chords right and things, and actually posture our heart to lead God's people. And then lastly, a practice that's helped me immensely, I still do to this day, plan to review. Like every time we lead worship, what can we learn from what we did well, and be encouraged by that, and then what can we learn in terms of what we need to grow in and our teams need to grow in. So I would love to get that into your hands. If you head over to influentialworship.com, you can get that completely free. But with that, let's continue on just looking at these resources. I'm going to put this back on here, and we're going to start with Worship Online. Now, this is, again, the desktop version, as you can see here. So this is what the dashboard looks like. You can see, everything's based around these song catalogs, which is the main feature of these resources, right? Is equipping your teams with helpful resources on how they can best prepare for the songs that you're leading with your congregation. And so this is what Worship Online looks like. I'm going to jump over to Worship Artistry. This is what their dashboard looks like, very similar to the app version. The layout here, you can see their catalog of songs. And then this is what the Worship Initiative kind of dashboard looks like. And they've got this craft training that I'm going to talk about in a moment here, but their song library, again, big database of songs. I love the searching feature of these, by the way, and a lot of them have this. I'll kind of point that out as we go through. You can see you can browse by scripture, which is a worship leader. That's super helpful, right? I mean, let's say you're going like, okay, we're preaching on a certain scripture, like we're looking for the perfect response song. You could browse by scripture and just look at that. You could browse by key, browse by topic. So pretty amazing. And I'll show you what their song tutorials look like in just a moment. But let me show you back over at Worship Online here. Similar feature in terms of being able to browse through songs. They've got this filter feature where you could filter by artist, albums, themes, which again, very similar. Like let's say you're preaching a message on a man like Almighty God, right? You can click on that. It'll bring up songs that might be a good fit for that. You can even filter by like time signature, key, BPM, which that's amazing. Vibe even, right? And I love this one here, difficulty. So you can go like, man, if you've got a worship team that's like just starting to learn how to play it, maybe a lot of young players, things like that, you can go like, man, I'm going to search for songs that are beginner songs. And if I clear the Almighty filter there, you can go like, okay, these might be good songs to use with a worship team that's maybe starting out. So great functionality there of searching through songs, just amazing there. Let me show you what this looks like on Worship Artistry as well. If we go search-wise here, you can search for specific songs, or the way they've got their catalog laid out is amazing as well. So you can see here that they have kind of put this on their homepage for you. You've got set starters, like perfect songs to kick off your set. So you've got that there. You've got challenging finger-picking songs, communion songs. So they've got some of that kind of filtering for you built into their homepage, which is pretty amazing, right? High energy songs, just 4 on the floor, popular drum songs. So again, amazing resource. I would highly encourage you to check this out, even from a standpoint of like, man, maybe a discovery of new songs, right, that you're not familiar with. So great filtering options there. Now, I want to point out with Worship Artistry and the Worship Initiative, I want to point out this, what they have, Worship Initiative calls it their craft training. Now, what this is, man, like, let's say you're not that interested in like the song tutorial resources, but you're just looking for like, man, how do I equip like people in my church that maybe want to serve on worship team? Maybe they're coming from a different musical background and you want to equip them with like, man, what is it like to play in the context of a worship team? These are amazing resources. And even for existing worship team members, if you're just looking for like resources on like, how do I help my team continue to grow in their craft, right? Of leading with excellence and getting better at their instrument. This is amazing. So check this out. This is the craft training. They've got learning paths for acoustic guitar, vocals, keyboard, electric guitar, bass. I mean, all the different roles of a modern worship band, right? Drums. And they've even got things, as you can see here, for in-ear monitors. Like, how do we help our people mix their in-ear monitors well? Nashville numbers. I mean, just lots of amazing resources. I'll show you this on the electric guitar side. So if I click on the electric guitar learning resources here, they've got effects videos. This guy walks you through like what are the different types of delay that are common that we use in worship settings, different types of reverb settings and things like that, overdrives. I mean, he goes through the whole gamut of kind of a worship pedal board, if you will, for electric guitar players. And just amazing. And principles of electric guitar, even things here you can see slide guitar, like how do we help our people learn the different slide parts that are becoming more and more common in the songs. And again, just amazing if you need to equip your team. Now, Worship Artistry, if we jump over to that, they have a similar feature. They call it their courses. So if I go to the dashboard here, you can see here they've got guitar, bass, drums, keyboard, and vocals. So again, all the modern roles in a modern worship context. So if I click on guitar, you can see they've got these different learning tracks as well. If we go lead guitar skill building here, you can see modes, harmony, transposing lead riffs, which that's a really helpful skill, right? And I'll point out why in just a moment, but you can see here they've also got a slide guitar path that you can begin, and you go through this. There we go, right? They start to walk you through that. So just amazing resources. Now, the reason I say I love that they have transposing, because I do want to point out with all these resources that the videos themselves, the tutorial videos themselves are, they take the original recordings of the song, they teach you the parts in the original recordings, and then it is up to your team to be able to transpose that, to learn the skill of how to transpose. However, they do make the chord charts available to transpose easily. So now I'll show you that over when we jump to Worship Online and show you the song functionality, the song tutorial functionality here. So you do need to be able to have your players understand that they're going to have to transpose the videos or be able to transpose the parts. Now, before we look at the song functionality, Worship Online, I do want to point out they don't have, you could see here, if we jump back to the dashboard, they don't have, so I'm going to get back to just the homepage here so I can show you this. They don't have a dedicated section in their dashboard for like a learning pathway or courses, if you will. However, to be fair to them, this is just their worshiponline.com/blog. On their blog, they have got endless resources. I mean, you can see here, like if I go down 58, pages of blog content that is all free. And by the way, you don't even have to sign up for Worship Online to access this. So you could, again, go to worshiponline.com/blog and you can access these resources. And they've got an amazing filtering tool. So like if I click on guitar here, it'll filter out all the resources that are relevant to guitar players on your worship team. You can even send one of these, like, man, send one a week to your guitar players, right? And go, hey, here's a helpful thing that might help you out in your journey of getting better at your skill, right? And reading through these, sharing these with your team. So again, I want to be fair to them and say, okay, they don't have a learning path here, but man, they've got so many amazing free resources available at their website. So with that, let's do this. I'm going to show you how the song tutorial features compare. So we're going to go here. We're going to use Holy Forever. So it actually showed up right there. This is what worshiponline.com looks like. You can see it pulls up, tells you the key, BPM, time signature. Now you've got all the different tutorial resources at your disposal here. A really great user interface, right? The way they've laid this out. So like if we click on acoustic, you can see here, it'll, you can play the video.
2.
It'll start playing. What I love, I'm going to point this out on the electric videos, is what I love. These are a playthrough, right? If you've got your electric 1, electric 2, these are playthroughs. But if you go to the lesson, and I click play here, I'm going to go to the start.
Let's take a look at the electric 1 guitars from the song Holy Forever by Chris Tomlin. This song is the
so you'll see here, he'll walk you through this.
And let's take a look at the different effects we'll use.
So I love this. I wanted to point this out. Like they'll point out for your electric guitar players, like, hey, these are the effect chain to use. And they don't get like super nitty gritty because they realize people are going to have different pedals, right? And different setups for their pedal boards. But they go through like, hey, this is what I'm using for this song. Super, super helpful. And again, these are just like high quality teachers too. This is Matt Podesta. Like he plays on a lot of these albums, right? And live recordings. And so again, really great teaching, great instruction. And let's look at a little more of the interface here. You can see as you go down, you've got the chart. Now, I pointed out just a few moments ago that, okay, the instruction videos are in the original key of the song, but the chord charts here, you can easily transpose. So, if you do the song in a different key, you can see here, it's like real-time functionality. You can shift keys right away. You can, pop a capo chart there. You can even like adjust these here for if you're doing the song a little differently. Let's say you're maybe not doing, one of the chorus repeats or something like that. You could take that out right here. And your team, I mean, what's amazing here is your team can go print, download. They have access to all this. And then, again, the electric guitar players are going to love this, or even just guitar players in general, right? Bass players as well. You have tabs available to you, which are really well laid out here. If we actually click play on the video, you can see what's neat about Worship Online is that it'll track through.
3, 4.
You can hear that going, right? You can see this tracking along with the song here. So pretty amazing feature in the way they've got it laid out here. I love this too, where they've got kind of just a quick snapshot of the different effects and the effects chains. I mean, think about like electric guitar players could take this, like copy it down, put it next to their pedal board, right? And just have a reference for what they're doing, or obviously use this in their preparation of setting up tones. And I'll point this out here. I love this. They've got a devotional where it'll hover down to the bottom here, and you've got just a short little devotional. And I think about many applications for this, like worship leaders could use this and go, hey, the top of rehearsal, hey team, we're introducing the song Holy Forever, or we've been doing the song for a while. I just want to do a little short devotional on this from Worship Online. And worship leaders, be honest in this, right? I would say if you're going to read this, like just say, hey, where you got it from. But man, I love that they laid this out here. Like think about the help for like busy worship leaders and all the different things. And this can be a way that we can just really practically disciple our teams and even use parts of this and like sharing it with the congregation. I love that they've got scripture references. So man, super helpful for just giving like a devotional thought. And again, even for our teams as they, are learning the song, that they would read this and like don't get lost in like the weeds of just preparing the song, but actually prepare their hearts as they get ready to lead worship as well. So that's amazing. You can see all the features here, just like we looked at the app. You can add to favorites, add to set lists. And then there's this add to PCO feature, which PCO is Planning Center Online, which again, a lot of worship teams are using, right? And so that's beyond the scope of this video. I'm not going to show you how that integrates, but if that would be helpful, drop a comment below. All three of these resources have ways that you can integrate their resources into Planning Center. So if that would be helpful to see how that functionality works, drop a comment below. Would be happy to review that in a future video. But now let's look at worshipartistry.com. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go to the dashboard, and I'm going to search for Holy Forever. Let's see what comes up here. Let's see here. So here's the Chris Tomlin version, Holy Forever. Again, you can see there's their Planning Center ad functionality. Obviously a different layout. So you're going to if you look at all three of these resources, you might find one user interface that you like better, or you could even preview it with some people from your team and just go, hey, what do you think will work better for our team and our context? But very similar functionality. If you click on that instrument here, so this is guitar, you can see it brings up on the side here all the different resources available. I love something that Worship Artistry's done is they've got these loops, these practice loops, which are great. Like you can just keep looping that section of the song. So if we click on this, for example, it'll just loop the strumming pattern. And again, if you think about that being combined with their app, right? Like your worship team, your members have got a practice tool like on the go. They could just pop that on and man, like have that in front of them and just be playing along, practicing, right? So amazing resource that they've built in there. You can see here they've got tabs available as well. If we click on this little icon here, they've got what'll pop up is this all the resources available. So you can go view all. You got chord diagrams. I mean, you've got your strumming pattern. They have even actually got rhythm notations, which are awesome here. And then you've got your tabs, right? There's not a way to like do a play along. They've got this play along where you can kind of play with it, but there's no sound that actually comes from that. But you can again see you've got tabs laid out. And you've got that there. I do want to point out, so some of the pros and cons here of like Worship Artistry versus Worship Online. If I go back to Worship Online here, the way they've got their electric guitar lessons laid out are electric guitar 1 and then electric guitar 2. And so they've taken like all the different parts, because sometimes if you look at like the multi-tracks or the stems from these live recordings or even studio recordings, sometimes there's like even sometimes up to like crazy like 7-9 layers of guitars, but it's not guitar throughout the whole song, right? Like they've taken one part and they're like, man, we're going to add this layer here. So what Worship Online has done has distilled all those different parts into an electric guitar 1 part and electric guitar 2 part, which is really helpful if you have a worship team that has 2 electric guitar players a lot of the time, right? Electric guitar nowadays with worship, you can't really break down into like rhythm and lead. It's just, again, electric guitar 1 or electric guitar 2, you've got a scenario where you've got like one player that's maybe doing high like repeated hooks and things like that. And then maybe you've got a player that's playing down low, a little more chunky. I mean, kind of a rhythm guitar, but a little more chunky or even like lower octave things. So they've broken their electric guitar parts down into 2 parts. Now, if I go back to Worship Online here, Worship Artistry, they've broken all the guitar layers for electric guitar, they break down into one single electric part. Now, they've got rhythm guitar here, which I don't want you to get confused. The rhythm guitar, as you can see here, is the acoustic guitar parts, right? So that's what like the worship leader or another acoustic player would be playing. And they break down all the electric parts, get kind of like summed into one, if you will. And this would be a great option. So Worship Artistry would be a great option if you've got a team where you're like, hey, like we would love to have 2 electric players, but man, that's so far down the road for us. Like we barely struggle to even have one. And if we do, like we're going to have 1 electric guitar player for the foreseeable future, right? So Worship Artistry has done a great job of like summing all those layers of electric guitar into one part for 1 electric player on our worship team. So if you got the context where you're like, man, we always have like 1 electric player, Worship Artistry might be a great fit for you, because again, they take like, how do you take all those layers and distill them into one essential electric guitar part? Now with that, one feature that before we move on to Worship Initiative, I do want to point out for Worship Online that's really neat is they have this mixer feature. So you can see right here, if we click this, it'll take a little bit to load here, but it's kind of like a personal, just like a personal practice tool for your team where, they can create their own rehearsal mix. So like your drummers could like crank the drums up, right? Or whatever they want, drums and bass. And then they could like rehearse along to that. And let's say they don't really want to hear like what the other instruments are doing. I mean, again, people can create their own custom mix. And then if you play here,
2,
you'll see it'll start to play along.
intro,
Which
2.
I mean, just an amazing practice resource. So they've got this built in, super smooth, easy functionality, as you can see here. So just want to point that out with Worship Online. That is something that's kind of unique to them. So if that's a big like feature for you where you're like, man, again, I could see our team really benefiting and using that. Again, Worship Online has done a great job of including that in there, where they've really designed it to be like, man, this one-stop shop for resourcing your teams. With that, let's jump over to the Worship Initiative and look at their song library. Now, the Worship Initiative, if you don't know, I want to point out that you might be familiar with Shane and Shane. And so the Worship Initiative is coming from the initiative, if you will, of Shane and Shane. It's their way to go, man, how do we just resource the church and worship teams at large? And so one thing with the worship initiative that is unique to them is that all their resources are based on like their recorded versions, their recorded arrangements of the song. And now they have done a great job of not like, there's some where they kind of drastically change the song, but it's pretty few and isolated. Oftentimes it's with like throwbacks and hymns and things like that. For the most part, Worship Initiative like takes the core arrangement of a song, released from like, let's say Elevation or Bethel or Chris Tomlin or whatever, and they just recreate that in their version, if you will. And then obviously all these resources are catered to their recorded versions. So I want to point that out because that might be limiting to you. If you're like, hey, we don't want to always have to use the Worship Initiative arrangement or the Worship Initiative recording as our reference, it might be a limiting factor for you where you're like, man, okay, maybe we're not going to use the Worship Initiative. And so just want to point that out as we look at the song resources. Now we're already on Holy Forever here, as you can see. So you can see they even base this, it says Holy Forever by Chris Tomlin. They base their arrangement on the Chris Tomlin arrangement. You can see as we scroll down here, really nice, clean user interface. Their videos are just always like super high quality, crispy and clear. All the videos are great for all three resources, but their ones are like, man, super, super nice and crispy and clear. If I click on one, preview this for you here, you'll see this will start playing. Fast forward a little bit. Yeah, amazing. So they've got their chord chart with numbers to follow along there, and they really do push the number systems. They've got all the numbers are in all the videos here, and they, again, if you think about back to that craft training, they will be able to teach your team. You could share those Nashville number system videos with your team to be able to get to this point where they could use the number system. But yeah, very similar resources. They've got this chord sheet that's kind of unique to them. It shows you like all the different chords, that are in the song. But then it gives you this chord diagram where it's like it points out again, really pushing the number system. So this is actually not unique to the song. This is like, hey, this is just a chord reference to go like, man, how can you start to teach your guitar players to play? In all your guitar players to actually use the number system and play with the number system there. So really neat that they've got that built in. Again, their PCO integration, they'll link to tracks and things you could add to playlists and favorite things. And then if we scroll down here, you can see they've got their rehearsal player as well. So it's a little different than the Worship Online, their full mixer. Basically, these are kind of like rehearsal mixers where they elevate that part or that instrument part in the mix so that the person can hear, the people on our team can hear what that specific instrument, their specific instrument is doing. So a really neat feature that they've got that built in here. That's one thing that I'd say with like Worship Artistry, they've got the play loops, but they don't have like a full rehearsal player built in, right? So, I mean, just amazing resource there. The Worship Initiative doesn't, they've got their charts here, but if people want to download them, they do have to actually pay for the chart. And so they've got an FAQ on that too. It's like, obviously for them, it's like a licensed copyright thing. Like they can't just make the charts available because they're not always their songs, right? So they can't just make them available there. And so you can see here, they've got a nice layout for their chord charts. Also just easily transposable as well. You can see you can pick a key here. Kind of a neat, something that's unique to them is they've got this kind of capo little reference here for the guitar players. So really neat resource there. You can see they've also got for their instrumentation, they've got vocals, keys, electric guitar, bass, acoustic, and then you can do kind of like your full mix, just reference track as well. So all three of these resources, just amazing to be able to equip all the different roles on our worship team. Friends, I hope this video has been helpful and maybe helps you make a decision on like which one of these would fit your context. I will put sign-up links in the description below as well. And with that, friends, I will see you in the next video. God bless you and your ministries.